5:15, and we'll call this meeting to order. We have determined that we have a quorum and present. So we'll get straight into the agenda. Has everybody had a chance to look at the meeting minutes from the last meeting? Is there any questions, concerns that we need to bring up? Do we have a approval to accept the minutes as they're written?
I make a motion to approve the minutes as written. I make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I second.
All in favor? Any nays? All right, we accept that one. Sorry, let's go back to that. As far as the minutes and the financial report, is there any questions, concerns? All right, so do we still have?
I make a motion to approve the minutes and the financial report.
Thank you.
And I will second.
And do all in favor? Aye. Has everybody had a chance to look at the volunteer list and sign up?
I will tell you that we've had anywhere from 6 to 8 different groups out here. So far, we've not allowed anybody to have anything that goes against the health code as far as prepared foods or anything like that. You know, that they're cooking on the square or it has meat in it or anything like that. We've had just 2 to bring produce in so far, and the rest are little craft items and stuff that they're making and bringing. All you basically have to do is just come up and greet everybody, make sure the bathrooms are open back behind the courthouse, let them know that they're open. I just drove by Saturday. Scott Lee's going to have Bill and Ricky Steed to open those for us and close it at the end of the day. Normal Saturdays, they start setting up anywhere from, we told them 7:30, but some are getting here at 7:15. You could probably come about 8:30, just greet everybody, let them know if they have any issues. You know, they can call you or they can text me or Jonathan or whatever. And it's not a big deal, really. Just making sure the ones that are there are supposed to be there. We set up on the south side and we set up on the west side here. And if they're not utilizing their truck, they really need to park it either across the streets or over here on the north side. But it's really not a big deal. The last 3 Saturdays, we've had pretty good crowds coming through and stopping. So it's been good.
And we're still looking for vendors, and the application is still available on the website. So anybody that's wanting to, and that has been emailing all the previous vendors and then working those applications that are coming through. It's kind of been slim, but if you know anybody that wants to participate, produce especially, but if you happen to have items that want to craft items or other items that's non-prepared food vending at the current time, we're looking for continuous vendors. We're also preparation of second Saturdays. I did have somebody for the entertainment, but they've backed out. Have possible lineup for July and August, but those aren't confirmed. My original backed out for May and June. I failed to follow up. Is Amy gonna have any of the yoga on the square on second Saturdays?
I don't know, I haven't talked to her.
Okay. She offered it in previous years, so that's something I need to reach out to her and see if she's still willing to do. We only had a few participants in the past, but it was something going on. We are open to demonstrations of any sort, but it's kind of what is something that you can continuous demo without having a specific time. Has been kind of tough in the past. For the wine festival, we had food chefs do different demonstrations in between the music, but for farmers market from 8 to 12, it's kind of been a difficult. I think the most successful one we had was somebody that was Dutch oven cooking, and then just gave samples and kind of talked through what they were doing. We had another garden club, not garden club, a master gardener set up and have a planting demonstration on planting various things that was successful. We had a canning person that wanted to participate but never followed through. So if you have any ideas or anybody that would be interested, we're welcome to that.
I know Sarah Broad with the extension agent did something for the library here about a month or two ago. So she might be interested in coming up and doing some kind of, it was container gardening, I believe. And she's usually really good to come up with some things. One thing we will not allow, because this has been asked, is garage sale items. This is not a flea market. It is a farmer's market. Big difference. And when Jonathan is talking about prepared foods to go, he's talking about like the container foods and things like that. If they fall under the cottage law, then with breads and cookies and muffins and stuff, that's allowed, as long as they're labeled like they're supposed to be per the cottage laws.
Yeah, it's burgers and fries and barbecue and stuff like that is not being currently. So if you have any thoughts, we can open that up for discussion, or if you want to email Annetta and with ideas, that we would love those as well. Open for entertainment as well for the second Saturdays.
How do we advertise for that?
It is being advertised through the Facebook group that Annetta's posting, and when she knows of certain people that are showing up. I know in the past we've asked if they're going to show up to let us know and send us pictures of their goods or stuff so that we can proactively advertise, but that hasn't been hugely successful here lately.
I do social media for my business and the Chop House, so I signed up. I work on Saturdays, so I'm going to come early that morning and I'll get as many good pictures as I can and then send them to you, and maybe that'll help advertise me. Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other discussions on the farmers market that runs through September? All right. Upcoming events. We've just finished, we had the wine festival that was pretty successful, despite all of our initial thoughts and worries and all of that stuff. We only had 4 wineries that showed up, which I think was a win compared to what we've been going through, but we had large numbers of people out. How do y'all think, did y'all discuss this at the last, I glanced through it but didn't see.
We did a little bit.
Okay. As far as the success, as far as the wins of it, the opportunities that we could improve upon? Okay, very good. So we typically have an event in the fall. In the fall, it has been the, Kathy, correct me on exactly the time, Harvest on Main. But previous discussions earlier this year and end of last year, it was kind of to do away with the Harvest on Main and look towards some other events. Are we still in general approval of that, or look towards a Harvest on Main? If so, we need to be started now.
We need to set a date tonight, if, well, no action items, but because we're gonna keep putting it off and putting it. Okay.
If we decide upon something and want to start working towards that and actually set a date, whether we want wineries or breweries or whatever, we need to let them know now.
How about both?
I had a thought process, and there was some general talk towards the end of last year. Gay and Bonnie around Cottrell, were you on at that time when we talked about it? No, I didn't think so. About the Smoky Row, having something like a Taste of Smoky Row, and have the local Franklin County restaurants participate and bring in wineries and breweries and make it just an evening event. Maybe with a theme of smoked food or not. Any thoughts?
My question is, and I think we ran into this with the wine festival, are our local restaurants staffed well enough that they can have their restaurant business going and an outside booth or kitchen or whatever you want to call it? I mean,
And they're also gonna have.
you know, but I'm not a restaurant, so that's something the others will have to have input on.
You know, we had talked about this loud, like a German festival, where, you know, beer and sausage, and I think that kind of goes with the Smoky Row. And if we could find people that, you know, specialize in that. I know there's a lot of people that do their own meat and smoked meat, and we could just start researching now. I have a few contacts in Pittsburgh. I have one in Longview that I can start kind of, but I think sticking to one thing like that I think the wineries are just tapped out. Pardon the pun, literally. But I think a beer festival would be fun, and it goes along with Smoky Row. I think it would just be get a live band.
There is an event, a Boots and Brew, that goes on somewhere around June. Okay, I'm way off. And who was that put on by?
Stephanie Hyman.
Okay.
Originally, when we were going to open, show Smoky Row off and everything, we were going to call it Smoking Good Time and have music and food that was smoked there. Yeah.
What about instead of doing our local restaurants, seeing if we have breweries or wineries just to participate and maybe do a smoke-off?
That might take some of the pressure off of the restaurants. You know, they'll be there and be open, but not be expected to actively participate with food.
We possibly could do beef, pork, and chicken categories and just have a judging.
Everybody loves a contest.
And that, I don't know the history, like I said, I'm new to the area, so going back to the where it originated from and why it's called that would be a good thing to incorporate in it.
The thing with Smoky Row is there is no water, and if there's electricity, it's limited. So if we did something, that would have to be where a street dance was. You would not be able to meet health standards if you don't have water on there. Am I right?
They have to have hand washing station. They gotta be able to.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not selling it, do they fall under that?
If you're cooking it, you have to have it.
Now, if they're cooking, can we use a square for that around here?
We have electricity and some water in certain areas on the square.
Then we could block off Smoky Row for live music and dancing.
Are you talking about leaving the upper level of the plaza for the craft beers and things? Because we've got to have a way to,
We would have to be able to block it off.
yes, for TABC purposes.
If you cooked on the outside, you could cook in the
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts on exploring this instead of?
Yeah, I agree. I think once we get a date nailed down, then we can just start taking off with it.
Okay. I think it's the second week of October is Country Fest, correct? Or is it the first week?
Yeah, that's the
Second Saturday.
8th.
Okay, I will also tell you that, not that it matters, but Winsboro is having their Art and Wine Festival November 11th and 12th.
It's too cold. We had the wine thing in late November and it was too cold.
So that would put looking at October 1st, which is literally the first Saturday, or pushing it to the 15th or 22nd. Everybody
Say the first.
look at the first, or do we want to set that? Do we want to explore it and get Annetta to email us this week and confirm, and everybody look at calendars and stuff?
I would say either the 1st or the 15th. One of those two. That's me.
And then we can start next week emailing and reaching out to wineries and breweries
And have it at night?
have the cook-off smokers, the breweries and all would need to set up before the smokers, or not necessarily. My initial thought was to do beef, pork, and chicken, and then maybe throw an exotic category in there.
Yeah.
Or just enter a category. Or limit it to 2.
Or you're just gonna tell them to cook and they can sell it.
Truthfully, meat's so daggone expensive right now.
What about doing the beer version of the wine festival?
Agree.
Isn't that like the German Fest beer and brats?
And even if we had vendors that smoke food, let them sell it, you know, and then we can have a questionnaire at each booth, like, what did you like about the meat, best taste, or whatever, but let's just stick to make it simple and easy, just beer and food and dancing.
And they pay for the booth.
So we're looking at times of what, 4 to 9? 5 to 9?
I can
5 to
go up
10?
10.
And with beer, we're probably gonna need an officer in place. I don't know what that's about.
The beer drinkers.
We are not the same.
I do now.
If you have music, they might dance.
Can people dance on that road with the incline?
Yeah, you can. Incline's not that bad. You can dance.
Okay.
Not that we wanna see anybody.
I'm
dancing
just
on the
thinking
table.
of beer mixed with dancing and that incline. Put baffles at the end that are rubber baffles at the end that they can bounce off of. So the general consensus is we want to go with a beer version of the Wine Fest. My next question is, since we have not ventured the beer outlet that I am aware of, are there enough in the area to even participate?
I think probably Stephanie Hyman has a list we could access, possibly, because she did the Boots Brew and Barbecue, or was part of that. So she may have a list already of craft beers.
Was that, for lack of knowledge, was that breweries that were out, or was that, I thought I would come up here one time and they were selling it out, just out of, the group was selling it out of Ice Chest. They weren't breweries involved.
They could bring a cooler, and you could pay a fee for bringing your own cooler.
Okay, it was some event, I don't know what it was, but there were one vendor that had one particular group that had all the beer, and it wasn't various, because they were set up on the east side of the square, and that's where the entrance was, and the dance and all was down here on the corner in front of Steve-O's. So there is enough breweries to. Let's shoot for that. So, Annetta, would it be possible for you to email everybody to confirm the schedule and everybody? The 1st or the 15th?
I vote for the 1st. I think kids are back in school. It kicks
The
off
only-
the 1st, and the further we get into October, we have Halloween and
Right.
The only thing is if homecoming. It's usually on Friday night, but, you know.
this is Saturday night.
I mean,
Isn't homecoming generally the
It would
same
good.
weekend as
Homecoming
Country
dance.
Fest?
but
Yeah.
then, I know.
Is homecoming generally the same weekend as Country Fest?
Yeah.
It is a
That's
lot
why
of
they-
times.
that's
If
why
it's
they
not
do it.
always, it is a lot of times.
Let me
Well,
look
yeah.
on their calendar. Let me see
It's
if they
early.
have it.
The coaches always want it early.
The 1st is fine with me. I mean,
thinking if there was any other things that we may not be considering that's conflicting.
I know the Alamo's doing something the 29th. The community events hasn't really set a date yet for their Halloween thing yet, so. Yeah, it'll be around Halloween.
So do we want to email the rest of the members just to double check schedules? Yeah. I can't think of anything, but
I think we need to set a date, set our times, set our theme, because we've got to get started. That is my opinion. Because everyone's not gonna be able to have the same schedules. We're just waiting to see when homecoming is.
Go with the first.
yeah, we didn't start planning that until like 2 weeks or 2 months in advance. If we have thoughts on that, we can get our promotions committee to start figuring out so that we can get the word out to the vendors sooner than later. Any thoughts on theme or just?
Oktoberfest. Because there's not an Oktoberfest around here, is there? I don't think so.
Well, Bonnie had a smoking good time on Smoky Row. I mean, we could do that. But we need to add something to it about the craft beers and are featuring area craft beer vendors and street dance and whatever kind of meat we're gonna have. You know, the differences.
Smoking and drinking on Smoky Road. So we're gonna set October 1st, 5 to 10.
Okay, here's another idea. How much do you want to charge the vendors?
Stay with the Wine Fest rules and
Okay, but we're not doing craft vendors. We're doing the beer vendors, and then we're doing the meat vendors. Are you gonna charge them?
Why aren't we doing craft vendors and stuff? Would we not?
I don't think you're gonna get craft vendors at night.
So, so back to the meat vendors, or I think, am I confused? It's been tossed out and tossed back in, or are we going to do just no smoke off? We still consider it smoke off? Or just having people come out and sell, or?
I have a question. Sulphur Springs, does that steak cook off? And they don't have water. I'm just asking, how does,
I
yeah.
would assume they bring their own water,
that might be
but
it.
then they're gonna have to get rid of their dirty water, they can't pour it out on
How do
Yeah.
we do it for the stew cook-off?
They passed it, yeah.
Wouldn't that be a self-contained if they're doing smoking for competition?
the meat is cooked when they come to the stew.
Let me call Sulphur Springs this week and see how they handle that with the health issue.
I will tell you, they have not had until we're asking.
No, I'm not suggesting that we fall outside of that. I'm just wondering what the actual regulations, for some reason I had it in my mind if they were selling, it was a different regulation than if it was like a cook-off.
Maybe the food health inspector could give us a hint on what they do.
So, do
They
we,
had to have that food handler license, is what they had to have.
so are we doing it a cook-off or just inviting vendors to come sell their meats?
If you're doing a cook-off, what prize are you thinking?
Trophies could be easy, as I already have 3/4 of the supplies for that, if not 90% of the stuff.
I don't really have much of an opinion. I feel like it's a little bit harder without having Crystal and Jennifer here, since they're our restaurant owners. I feel like they always give us such good insight on that, on anything food related. So
Are we married to having food?
If you're drinking, you need to have food of some sort.
Well, can we not do like we did for the wine festival and let them go eat at the restaurants? And we just had the beer, craft beer, and street dance.
Well, the problem with that we found out afterwards was that with the restaurants being full, if somebody was a diabetic or something like that, or if they were drunk or whatever, that they would not have quicker access to food.
Why can't we decide on the 1st and advertise it, you know, smoke, whatever you want to do it, but advertise beer, food, and street dance?
And then the next meeting, we would figure out whether we want to do a smoking competition or have vendors. Is there enough vendors to sell meats?
you've got quite a few vendors that sell barbecue. Really, smoked meats. Because I know J.C. Fountain's one of them. But is that... Huh? What did she say?
Honestly, part of me is just leaning into having craft beer, dancing, and the restaurants be open. I mean, the day of the wine festival, we were slammed, and it was a good day. We just opened a lot earlier, and we could just be prepared for it. So, I mean, it would help our downtown too.
Well, if we
Some
don't,
snacks or something, like
if
crackers or
we've
nuts.
got to have something outside the restaurants for people to have to eat.
I think we can do that without having an actual, vendor with meats or what. And obviously, if we want to do that, that's fine.
Do we invite food trucks instead of making it difficult and just say, but again,
The
the
food
whole Main
truck-
Street,
Be,
That takes away from our
that
downtown
became a
business.
touchy subject last time.
it did, yes. I'm trying to think
Okay.
where that line is.
I'm gonna say this in defense of the other businesses in town. It is no different with a food truck and a restaurant versus someone selling their hats or their clothes or their jewelry when we have 2 or 3 businesses like Gay and Jennifer and Lindsay who are selling the same thing. It is still bringing business downtown. If you're going to have a festival, you need to have things for them to come into. They're going to spend money in the restaurants and stuff, regardless.
And really, if you didn't have cooked foods here, even if you advertise food, the restaurants are food, So you know what I'm saying?
We're having food no matter what.
Yeah.
It's just in what version.
But I think we're getting away from the idea of a festival. If we're calling it a craft beer festival or whatever we're calling it, it kind of needs to have the festival atmosphere, not we're just going to do craft beers and there's food. Because people are going to call and ask, trust me, about what we're doing.
Idea of there are men that line up their grills and they want to, I think we could go back to that idea. I don't think it's a bad idea at all. And it's
That's
Smoky
kind
Row.
of where I'm at. It
Exactly.
brings in competition.
Yeah.
They can do tasting without selling.
Buy it.
Well, I've been up to Sulphur Springs when they've had the steak wars or whatever they call it. It's a championship is what it is. And people come from all over Texas to participate in it. And you go up and you buy, if you wanted a T-bone, you bought a T-bone, baked potato, etc., and you walked away with your plated lunch. So that was, you want them to have the opportunity to make money. Tastings of that meat, it is so high right now. They're not going to want to give away tastings, I don't think. That's my opinion.
So they can sell whatever meats they have, but submit a category of something that they want to enter in a cook-off. That way it's a dual purpose. They can sell as well as participate in competition.
2 categories.
Having it in the contest format would probably drive them here. Oh, yeah. Because they love the contest.
Yes.
And Kiki. I've got her. She's a judge at all these meat barbecue and contests.
Is that the person that judged the stew?
Mm-hmm.
She might could help. She offered to help direct things at the stew cook-off.
And it was great because we didn't have to do anything. She knew how to do the judge. Mm-hmm. So we might contact her for help. It's just, yeah, but
I like that. Let's roll with that. So we'll have a smoking cook-off to be determined as far as what categories or whatever here in the next meeting, but at least start getting the word out for breweries to come in, start looking for entertainment for multiple time slots, or do we want to stick with one or two?
one or two bands, don't you think?
Be me. Again, I don't know. But I feel like with this kind of event, it'd be better to have somebody that does like a cover band, so that they're singing songs everybody knows, not somebody that's up, because it's hard to sing, dance around to music you've never heard in your life.
Right.
Yeah.
So I can start looking for the cover. There's a East Texas events, and there's an East Texas musicians group.
Had, oh gosh, they're from Sulphur Springs, and they're amazing. For band, I can get the name of them. They're
You want to
good.
just look at that?
Yeah.
And I know
Initially?
some in Winsboro too that does that. That
Perfect.
plays in Silver Springs.
Let's look at that.
And we might look at sponsors to help pay for the band.
Okay, so we've got to, as a whatever word I'm looking for, just to confirm, we're looking at October 1st, 5 to 10, a brewery event with smoked competition, smoking meat competition, and dancing on the square. Okay, so
It used to be so fun, and then they used to have the street dance, rodeo street dance, right?
Cottrell's gonna check with her contact. And do you go by Deborah, Debbie? I failed to ask that in the past, sorry. And Debbie, you're gonna follow up with your band. And then Bonnie, you're gonna check with the Kiki
Yeah, I'll check with Kiki.
as far as putting this together. So as far as I know, this is the only, us having this one event in the fall is the only other event outside of the farmer's market and Second Tuesday. Is there another event that I'm missing?
I would like to bring up several other things that I would like to see Main Street participating in. I'm currently working with Gail Reed, doing some things with the Historical Association. That is the basis for Main Street, is historical preservation and things like that. So I think we need to incorporate a little more of that into our Main Street events. I will tell you this, Jennifer and I briefly chatted about the last ladies' night out. I can't promote something if I don't know about it. I had someone call and ask me which businesses were participating, what day it was, what time it was. I had no clue. So if it's something that needs to be promoted through Main Street, and that originally that was one of the projects, was Ladies Night Out, then I need to have the information so I can put it out there and which businesses are participating in all of that. I don't have to be in charge of it, but I do need to know about it if it's going to be on Main Street. She had talked about doing potentially a back to school Ladies Night Out. I don't know if she has set that in stone or anything. At some point, I would like to coordinate that with a back-to-school bash, where we have a huge all-day thing with kids, families, have tournaments, things like that. I don't think we would have time to do it this year, but that's something I would like for us to keep in mind for next summer. We've got the fall event. Bonnie and I went and talked to Ginger Trampus to get an idea of some things that the community events was looking at. You know, they've taken over the trick or treat. They're potentially, this is not set in stone, but they're potentially looking at utilizing the park and possibly part of the square. They're not sure yet. They haven't had their meetings yet, and they don't have a date for sure on that yet. But depending on where it's located, I would like for Main Street to be part of that. And it could be something simply as handing out candy, or giving them cute little trick-or-treat bags or little toys or something like that for those that can't have the candy, or, you know, something like that. Christmas parade. They're going to do the Grinch and Whoville again. Last year, Main Street sponsored the trailer. I think Brad announced from. Oh, the city did. Well, does the city mind if Main Street does that? So I would like for us to do that. Something mentioned that Bonnie and I have discussed that I would like to see Main Street participate in is a window decorating contest. There would be 2 trophies. They would be what we call traveling trophies. And we would have at each business possibly something for people to drop pennies in to vote for their favorite windows, or someplace where they could come vote for that. The suggestion was to have it with green lights and something, Whoville, basically. The chamber would be responsible for any trophy or ballots outside of the Main Street area, and that way it could be coordinated.
Isn't the Main Street guidelines some sort of restriction on the amount of window space and all of that stuff that can be done? I know Carolyn was going around during her era following some of the guidelines. Yes, no, maybe?
I don't think.
I'm not aware of that.
I'm not aware of it either, Jonathan.
Yeah, I'll check on that.
I'm
Okay.
not aware of it.
It was, yeah, that was something that she was, because she had to go down and have some conversations with a couple of,
Oh, I know. Signs.
it was also the amount of window it was blocked.
Signs, it was not the Christmas decoration.
Yeah.
They
It's-
were covering the window up so you could not see inside with just various emblems.
Okay.
Signs, not, and that's nothing to do with Main Street, that was historic and signs.
Okay, so if they're decorating inside their window, on their window,
That's, okay.
it excludes that blockage or whatever guideline is there. Okay, thank you.
So what are your thoughts on helping with the Halloween if it's within our general area and the Christmas parade?
If the businesses are open, the restaurants have been open in the past, but the other businesses weren't, if I recall. So it'd be getting participation from those businesses to
Well-
kind of tie in.
I think they would, because it draws a huge crowd downtown for Christmas parade. And I think on Christmas parade night, aren't the businesses open?
Most retail,
everybody wants to come watch the parade. And so, the parade's at 8? Okay, I just know in the past we've closed to go watch the parade. Well, that could be I mean, you could still do your Christmas lights.
Yeah. Yeah, the parade this year is
Okay,
gonna
I
be at
didn't remember it
6:30,
being that
Junior
late.
said.
Remember, it gets dark really early. I think it was 6 or
I think it is
This
too.
past year is the first year that they added the events starting at noon. In previous years, they,
I don't think that they're looking at that. I don't think
so
they're
is it
looking.
worthwhile for businesses to be open from 4 to 7?
Maybe 4 to 6.
Is it worthwhile being open 2 hours to count a till down and all that stuff? And staff for 2
I mean,
hours?
we can give it, we're game. I think it's gonna be up to the individual businesses on that.
Agreed.
And if they don't wanna stay open, if they'll just plug their lights in, you know, for people to vote on, and then they could have the trophy for the whole year, and then we'll pick it up for next year. Was
Okay.
my thought. I
Sounds
thought
good.
it would really bring our lights.
So,
It worked when we had the windows project.
sounds good.
Okay, so we're agreeable to helping with the Halloween, as long as it's close to our main street, and the Christmas. I also have one more idea that I would like to do, and it's not gonna take a whole lot of preparation or anything, but it was something I came across. It's called a mitten tree. Have y'all heard of that? You take a tree, and people donate mittens or toboggans or gloves, and they tie them on the tree. And then at the end of a certain time period, they take all those off and they donate them. And I was thinking, if we could do a mitten tree, then we could go ahead and, you know, if we started looking, you know, or encouraging people to look, we hopefully could have a couple of trees stationed maybe in the restaurants or something, and then gather those up and donate them to Bountiful House or the community and schools.
I thought the Arts Alliance was gonna have the trees down at the park, and we were gonna have a tree down there with mittens. Am I not remember?
Well, I don't think they voted on that yet. I think that's gonna be something community events is in charge of. I'm thinking put a
Or all the businesses could participate and have a tree inside their. This is before Christmas, after Christmas, during Christmas.
Thanksgiving, yeah, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, and go to maybe 3 weeks.
If people are decorating their trees for the Christmas parade, which is usually that first weekend, or that's gonna almost force them to tie into that, which is okay. But I'm just asking if that's what your intentions are.
People that are gonna participate regardless when it is my theory. That's up to y'all. I mean,
Or we could do it pre-Thanksgiving, and then they could turn around and turn it in before they start decorating, and that way, if we do it to the community schools, that would be ready and available for them about that period of time.
And we could buy all green gloves, because then people will.
Mm-hmm. And toboggans. Actually, it's not gonna matter what they look like.
But yeah,
I know.
I think it would be good to participate.
Okay, I think that's
Additional
all I have.
events, upcoming events, is that any other ideas while we're on? All right, do you want to take on the next item for the training?
Okay, there has been quite a bit of confusion, and I wanted to clear it up because I'm not sure even some of y'all understand where my Main Street area is. So I gave you a map for you to look at. This is the designated area for Main Street. When I do promotions, I've already had a couple get a little upset with me because I did not promote their business outside my area, and I had to explain to them that is not my area. I have a designated area. The chamber, if they will let Bonnie know what they're doing, she will post it on the Chamber of Commerce. But as you can tell, we basically go down to the appraisal district over here on the west. That includes the old Lowry building back to the railroads. You go down, I think it's English Street, and then cut across to the south side of the park. The park is not included in that. And then you come across and it goes back down to the other side of the Teague building. Gets a little bit of the back part of Holbrook with a little gas station and all that is, down to the railroads and across back behind the feed store. Yes, the little old one. No, that was a little gas station when I was young. Mr. Tillery's gas station. Yes. I am not sure. I think that is where Pure Hope's house is. I think that is. So that is the Main Street area. So if you're ever asked, why is she not promoting the other businesses in town, it's because they're not in my Main Street area.
It's actually larger than what I would have thought.
So we've got a good bit on there. Okay, I didn't copy this for you. This is the 4 points committee's summary. I found this in some of the stuff Carolyn had done. It gives you a definition of organization, economic restructuring or vitality, design and promotion, and what some of the job descriptions are if you're on those committees. It was included with the agenda, so be sure and look at that link to see which, you know,
I think we have
Area.
everybody assigned to committees, 2 committees each, with the exception of Deborah.
yes,
And that's
I
something
had
that we need
that.
you to kind of look at. Erica, I believe, was included. There it is.
But that's, if you look at the committee reports, it does give where everybody is at, with the exception of Debbie. But be sure and look at your link that goes over some of your points. We do need to have training every session. I'm trying to find some videos and stuff that's not, 2 hours long for us to do. I'm trying to keep them less than 10 or 15 minutes, but we do need to start looking at some of the areas of the 4 points. And you can also get on the Texas Historical Commission website, the THC, and they've got all kinds of stuff on there too to look at.
I believe it's about time for the Open Meeting Act for some of us, no? Basically, don't respond to all on your email. Is there any additional items on training that you want to go over? Okay.
To look at those, understand what your committee is.
Not aware of any, but does anybody have any committee reports?
No.
Go ahead. Yes.
Okay. On the organization, what I coordinated with Amanda Harper, who is a 7th grade history teacher, for Preservation Month, and sent her a quiz. And her 7th grade students did the preservation quiz for me that I typed up 25 questions, and it took them 2 days to research all the information. So we covered our Preservation Month with that. And she said they actually kind of enjoyed it. I had asked for an essay also, but with STAR testing, they just were not able to get it in. And I was really too late in getting with her on it, but hopefully next year we'll be able to do that. I know that we've got several businesses that have gone out of business, and we need to, on the economic vitality restructuring, kind of look at that and see if we notice a business that's maybe struggling, how can we encourage them? Is there any options or anything we could do to help them? Or if you think of some businesses that might be wanting to come into Mount Vernon Main Street, let's look at that and talk to them. On the design, I've had one new business that's talked to me about a facade grant. I do have a little one left. I gave her all the information, and
You have the sign, you have the sign ordinance money left, all the
yes,
facade money is gone.
yeah, I have the sign. So she's looking at filling all of that out if she wants that. As far as promotions, oh, let me go back to design. I have contacted THC. There were some signage designs that were submitted last year, and I guess due to COVID, we never received those back. So I have touched base with them for certain businesses that had asked about that, or organizations. So I'm waiting to hear from the Historical Association on that. And then promotions, I'm reaching out to different organizations to see what's on their calendar, and in order to seek areas that we may be able to capitalize on what they're doing. Like the Christmas parade, how can we capitalize for Main Street on that? That kind of thing. So any suggestions y'all ever have, just email me, and I'll get with Jonathan and Bonnie, or email Bonnie and she'll get with me and we'll look at different stuff. So.
I know in the past on economic vitality, there was discussion on having kind of a, for lack of better words, a Main Street association to where the businesses could kind of get together and talk and provide feedback to the Main Street Board as far as their needs, desires, wants. You and me and Chalk talked about
Yeah,
that.
we talked about it. But remember Carolyn had, and to each other about what they wanted and everything else, so that, and it was very private because then it wouldn't get out. It was just between them, and she could try to handle the problems if there were any, which is a nice idea.
Just a way of having a camaraderie around, but outside of city involvement, to be able to help each other out and discuss things, opportunities and all that they saw. Not just opportunities as far as problems, but opportunities on how they could improve their businesses, things that they could do to drive more business, kind of like Jennifer does with the ladies' night. She gets the businesses together, and they've been working on that and kind of working as a camaraderie to promote their businesses downtown. Putting a group together that could
Understand that's not a Main Street project when that happens.
It was being discussed as part of a kind of a outside committee of the economic vitality to help get that going.
One of the things. Then we also talked about what are they called? To block off a street. Instead, huh? Yeah, but it's not barricades, it's called something else. But in other words, nice looking ones.
Stanchions.
Maybe that was it. And Tina had already picked some out that we really liked.
It was to promote the multi-use area of Smoky Row. What was the thoughts on that?
Was Friends of the Main Street gonna pay for it?
We had talked about it because
The problem is, I have no record of any.
This wasn't Friends of Main Street. This was economic vitality. And we wanted to get new barricades that looked nice, not the. And Tina had already been researching. Didn't mean that.
Could put on a project or whatever to raise money for it.
Figure out.
Moving on, manager update.
Okay, I wanted to explain something about quarterly reports. This could probably be considered part of your training too. I have to report, by the 10th day at the end of each quarter. So my next reporting date is going to be July 10th. On these reports, I have to give your volunteer hours. That's why I'm harassed. This is also with National. They want to see that we are doing things as a group for everything. I also have to do reports on activity. Committee, I've got to have something on. On economic vitality, I can use the Food and Wine Festival, the farmers market, things like that. Design, we've had several buildings start renovating and new businesses that have come in. How many employees did it bring in? I have to have that information to turn it in to keep our accreditation information. And then at the end of January, then we have this big, nice document I have to turn in also. So when I give you or ask you for your information, I've got to turn it in by a certain time. So I'll try to give you at least 2 weeks to get your information to me on what I need to add to these reports. That way we are covered with everything. I also put on where you're sitting. That is something that I found for you to keep up with your volunteer hours by quarter. You can stick it on your refrigerator or whatever, and that way all you have to do is glance at it and tell me, you know, how many hours you've accumulated. I know most of us did anywhere from 8 to 11 hours on Wine Festival. So we've already got that down for everybody that worked on that.
Like when you were talking to the carriage ride guy, that's time.
Yes. Your Main Street meetings count as time. So look at what meetings you had and how long they went. That counts as your time also. So, if you spend any extra time trying to get the bands or whatever, or the breweries or whatever, count that time. It has to be something that you're volunteering for Main Street, just Main Street. And I guess that's all I've got, Jonathan.
Perfect. Thank you. Very productive meeting tonight. Do we have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I second it.
All in favor of getting out of here? Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you.